Hello, in this video we're going to be going over the syllabus. So first of all, just what a syllabus is it's kind of the policies that will govern the course, and the first one we'll talk about is attendance. So in this course you will have a participation grade, and you are expected to participate each week in class, right? There are 3 ways that you can participate. First is physical attendance at your assigned class meeting, right? So you can't just go to any class meeting. It has to be the one you're assigned to. That's one way that you would fulfill your participation requirement for the week. Another is by attending online through streaming video. There is some technology that we're hoping to use that will allow us to do that, so you could participate while I'm teaching. So you could be in your dorm room and could online connect to what's going on in the classroom. That's only if the technology works. If the technology works, obviously that option will not be available. The third is completing a participation assignment within 1 week of the missed day, right? So if you don't come in person and let's say your meeting is on Monday, scheduled, your assigned meeting is Monday, you don't come on Monday, you are not able to watch the streaming video while the class is going on. Let's say you just did not feel well, you just stayed in bed and slept, which is a reasonable thing to do. Then what you would do is you would complete a participation assignment, and ideally you'd get that done within 1 week. Obviously, if you missed because you were really sick, we can talk and you might be able to get an extension. I will usually post those after class meets, typically on a Monday or Tuesday, but it just depends. But I'll get those up as soon as I can. If B does not work, right? If you're not able to attend online through a streaming video because for whatever reason the technology doesn't work, you would just need to complete C if you were unable to attend physically. I cannot stress this enough. If you are sick or think you might be sick, please do not attend class, right? Please use option B or C. If you have any suspicion that you're ill, do not take option A. So a few policies regarding COVID-19. Students are highly encouraged to social distance. So I'm going to encourage that in the classroom. I'm not going to be heavily policing that because, you might be taking a class with your roommates and you may be comfortable sitting with only a seat between you or something like that. So I'm not going to be policing that so much. I am going to be highly encouraging it though. However, you are required to wear masks or other face coverings at all time, so long as they meet that requirement of face coverings in accordance with Lander rules and state law. It's important to note that Lander is a public university, so in particular, we're very strict about following the law, which I think makes sense. So it's very important to do that. Students who do not follow these rules can face honors code violations and other sanctions as deemed appropriate. Now, one thing I want to stress again, if you're in class and someone's not wearing a mask, that doesn't mean it's okay not to wear a mask. What I probably have done is I've filed a report on that student, and they will receive a visit from the CARES team to discuss why they're not following state law. So don't be, too disturbed if someone is not complying. Though, of course, you are welcome to bring that up with me privately if you think I didn't notice it or something like that. As a general rule, we want to make sure that people follow the rules, but we also don't want to cause embarrassment or other issues. But the key thing is wear your masks or other face coverings. If you don't, you can face very serious sanctions. And again, I want to stress this again. If you are ill or suspect you are ill, please do not come to class. Because of COVID-19, I will not be meeting personally with students in office hours, so I will be having virtual office hours. Please see the schedule. I'll get that up on the schedule. Talk about the one that's uploaded on Blackboard for the hours. If you cannot make my scheduled office hours, I'm also available by appointment. Right, so there's the scheduled office hours when I'll be having it looks like I'll be using Microsoft Teams. I'll just leave that on. You can come for that, but I'm also available by appointment. So to talk a little bit more about attendance, if you fail to participate in multiple weekly sections, you'll start receiving a minus 10 point penalty to your participation grade for each session after the second. So let's say you come to weeks 1 and 2, you do A, B, or C, But then week 3, you don't do any. Week 4, you don't do any. And then week 5, you don't do anything. Starting with week 5, you would lose 10 points, right? So you got to do either of those options. You have basically 2 weeks where you will not be penalized for not doing your participation assignment. Starting with that 3rd week, you will have a minus 10 point penalty to your participation grade. That's out of 50 points per session. So keep that in mind. You are still expected to fulfill the participation requirement even if you miss class for Lander-related activities. The material we'll go over can be on the exams. So even if you have a good reason for not being there, such as being, if there's a sporting event or you're part of a club and they're having some sort of meeting, I'm not sure what kind of meetings people will be having during this time of COVID-19, but you might have something that makes it impossible for you to come to class in person, or that makes it impossible for you to stream the class, in which case you would still be expected to do the participation assignment. Like I said, you'll be tested over that material. Depending on your situation, an extension could be granted, right? Like I said, if you are ill and are feeling really sick, especially if you get COVID-19, then of course, I'm going to be flexible on attendance in those cases. But it's up to you to talk to me about that. Should you lose all of your participation points, additional penalties will be deducted from the final exam. So do please keep that in mind. So one thing to think about in terms of how, if you do decide to come to the face-to-face meetings, right, that's how you're going to fulfill your participation requirement. It's important to follow classroom decorum. It's important to avoid disruptive behavior. And one thing I would think in general is that human beings forget a very basic rule that I think is a very good rule, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? So imagine if you were to meet with me, but the whole time you wanted to talk to me about something serious like your grade, I was playing on my phone, or if I had earbuds in. You wouldn't much like that. So you shouldn't do that kind of thing during class, right? If you want to listen to something, you don't like it when people talk loudly and you can't hear them. So don't do it to other people. It's very simple. So basically what I would argue, and I think the university will certainly back me up on this, students have a right to a positive learning environment. People are putting a lot of money and effort into their studies, and they want to learn. And you have a right to a positive learning environment. I also have the right to teach without distractions. And those things go together, right? If I'm distracted because someone's doing something weird in class, I'm not going to be teaching at my best, and that's going to impact people's ability to learn. So you have a right to learn. I have a right to teach. And disruptive behavior is therefore not allowed, because it impugns on someone's ability to learn. It impugns on my ability to teach, and thus for people to learn. And the judgment call is mine. If I consider it disruptive, it's disruptive. Now, for the most part, this isn't too much of an issue, but it is something I do need to go over. So for people who do engage in disruptive behavior, that can result in a penalty to their grade, to their participation grade, removal from class for the day. I may say, please leave. Or if it's really bad, removal from the course as a whole. Right, so that's something important to keep in mind. So I think it's important to give you some examples of disruptive behavior. Sometimes people don't realize that what they're doing is disruptive. We have different opinions on this matter and things like that. Like I said before, I'm the one who has the authority to decide what counts as disruptive behavior. So it's important to stress what I consider disruptive behavior. Reading newspapers or other books, right? That's openly saying to people, hey, this isn't important what that guy up there has to say. I don't care. And I'll let other people know I don't care. Right? So that's disruptive, right? It's disruptive when I'm talking and I see someone just openly not paying attention and saying, hey, I don't care if people know whether or not I'm paying attention. Using electronic devices, including smartphones or earbuds. I'll talk more about that later. Doing homework from other classes. Chatting in class, making loud noises. If you have a question, it's better to ask me, not to ask your neighbor, because what happens is when you ask your neighbor what I just said or about something else, I continue talking, you miss what I said, and you fall even further behind. Putting your things away before class is dismissed. I'll have people sometimes put things away like 5-10 minutes before class is supposed to be over, but I'm still going over material that could be on the exam. That doesn't make sense, and it becomes very loud if you have 10 or 15 people doing that all at once. In addition, sitting on desks or tables or placing your feet upon them or chairs, you're walking outside, who knows what you step in, and then you put your feet where people put their hands, right? So that can be very messy. You may think that sounds odd, but one thing I should tell you, I'm a specialist in Asia, and in the country in particular where I studied, Korea, people take their shoes off when they come inside and then sit on the floor, right? So you got to keep the floor clean. Well, your hands and so forth, sometimes people will, have their hands on the desk. You don't want to get your feet there as well. And of course, when you're in a posture where someone's sitting back and putting their foot on the table, that is signaling, hey, I'm not really here to learn or to participate. I'm just here to kind of rest. Using fidget spinners or knitting or other such activities, that may seem really weird to have on there, but I want to stress this stuff on my list is here from personal experience. Some well-meaning counselors will tell students, hey, if you have trouble concentrating, you should try knitting because then your hands will do something that will help you pay attention. It also prevents you from taking notes, which is a problem. And I find people that try and do that just aren't engaged, so do not do that. Speaking in a disrespectful manner or engaging in threatening speech or behavior, there's only really been a couple times when I ever was really, really angry at a student, and it's because they were disrespectful to other students. It's very bizarre to me. It's important to respect each other. So one thing I want to stress, all these acts are not only disruptive in the sense that they distract me and your fellow students, they also hurt the person engaged in them, right? So for example, I had a student, and this guy just, I guess, wanted to listen to music while class was going on and was always having his earbuds in. And I would take off the penalty and tell him, hey, you can't do that. And his solution was to wear a hoodie or to wear a hat and try and hide them. And of course, sometimes he'd forget and take it off, and then he'd get the penalty again. And he ended up with a D in the class. I guess he sure showed me, right? If you're coming to class with the assumption that, hey, this is going to be boring, I better listen to music, you're setting yourself up to fail. I say putting things away before it's time to go. Like I said, class is still going on. What you're saying is, I really hate this class. I want to get out of here as soon as possible. And I don't care what the professor and other people, I don't care if they know that. It's important to avoid that kind of thing, especially because this is supposed to be getting you ready for being out in the working world where you may have to sit through very many boring meetings. And if you do that, you're signaling to your boss that you don't really want to be here, and you may not be there because you'll lose your job eventually over things like that. Typically, when people engage in kind of disruptive behavior, it has to do with electronic devices. So it's very important, I think, to give that extra attention. So the use of smartphones, iPads, laptop computers, MP3 players, earbuds, even if only in one ear or even if the ears are covered, and other such electronic devices is not allowed during class. Appearing to use such items will result in a penalty of -5 points to the offender's participation score for the first offense, to be doubled each instance thereafter. So -10 for the second, 20 for the third, and so on. So it's very important to follow this, right? To be respectful. I'm kind of struck at how people will just, in conversation, just pull out a phone and start looking at it. Will listen to earbuds while they're trying to talk to me or whatever. And to me, that's just not polite. I was out mowing the lawn this morning. A neighbor walked by and wanted to talk to me, and I took my earbuds out so I could actually hear what he was saying. And I think that's just a polite thing to do. So that's important to keep in mind. I should also point out, like I said, college, a big part of it is training for the professional world. If your boss wants to have a conversation with you and you refers to take out your earbuds, that's going to be a problem. So, however, now here's the fact of the matter is that you might be in a situation in which you need to be reachable. You may have a sick family member who's dependent on you. In that case, please let me know ahead of time that this is your situation. You don't have to describe the situation. Just tell me you're in such a situation where you need to be reached. Set your phone to vibrate, sit near the door, and if your phone vibrates and it's your family member, then leave. Then you can leave and go take care of that problem. This will let you come to class when you need to be on call. Please don't actually answer the phone or text in class. Please, just have a quick look. Keep it, put it away, vibrates, look at it. If it's the right one, then leave, and just let me know ahead of time. You can record during lecture sections of the class. However, the electronic device needs to be placed in front and collected after class. if it is a smartphone. So if you want to use your smartphone to record the class, you can do that so long as it's in the front, like on a desk in the very front away from you, so it doesn't confuse people and they think you're on a phone. Or it must be, or if you sit in the first 3 rows of class, it can be like a MP3 recorder. I should point out, though, I'm not responsible for lost, stolen, or damaged devices. And one thing I should point out, if you're like, I don't like all these rules, I don't want to have to follow these, I want to be able to text or whatever, then don't come to class, right? Stream or do the participation assignment, right? You don't have to actually come to class physically to fulfill the requirements for weekly participation. So you can have other options. So it doesn't make sense to come to class and do these things. You don't have to. I'm going to go through these next policies very quickly. We have an academic honor code and plagiarism rules. Lander University is relying on all members of the academic community to maintain proper standards of honesty. You're responsible for understanding the possible consequences of violating Lander's academic honor code, which is, I will strongly uphold the academic honor code, and any evidence of academic dishonesty or plagiarism will result in my pursuit of the strongest punishment, i.e. failing the course, under the guidelines explained in the Lander University Student Handbook. Changes to the syllabus. This material here, I reserve the right to make future revisions to the syllabus, so I can change the rules basically as we go on if I need to. Disability service and accommodations. So if you believe that due to a disability you could benefit from academic or physical accommodations, you're encouraged to self-identify to the Office of Disability Services. Confidentiality will be observed in all inquiries. Course instructors support student accommodation requests when an approved notification from the Office of Disability Services has been received, and when students discuss the agreed upon accommodations with the instructor after receipt of an approved letter, and there's the contact information. So basically, they don't tell me what the nature of the disability is. They just tell me this is the accommodation the student gets. It has to be through them. So, I had a student tell me, well, I have this issue, so I have to use a laptop in class. And I'm like, well, that's nice. That's you telling me that you need to go through Disability Students Services and Accommodations if you want to be able to do that. And they ended up not needing it. So there you go. The primary, and I just want to stress, I can't give you accommodations unless you go through Disability Services. Now, I do want to tell you that one of the major ones that they give is the ability to have extra time to take an exam. And that's very easy for me to give if you have the accommodation. So please do keep that in mind. Grade appeals. So I do give opportunities for people to raise their grade as much as possible. I always have people at the end of the semester ask me to bump up their grade for really no good reason. So I have this policy. All appeals for changes to grades must be made in writing. Email is acceptable. Individual meetings will not take place unless the written appeal is deemed sufficient. Requests for individual bonus assignments, the reopening of old Blackboard quizzes, or a change of grade based on such reasons as a need for a certain GPA to maintain a scholarship are unjust to other students and therefore will be rejected. My policy is if I have a bonus opportunity, it's available to all students. I don't give it to individuals. There's plenty of opportunities to raise your grade. You want to take advantage of those, but once the grades are in, they're in. Honor code. The Lander University Academic Honor Code may be found in the Lander Student Handbook. You're responsible for understanding the possible consequences of violating the code. Instructor illness. If I get sick and have to cancel in-person class meeting, students will be expected to complete option C to fulfill their participation requirement for that particular session, and this refers to a section in the print version of the syllabus. Students should regularly check email, especially the morning of classes, as how they will be informed of any such cancellation. So, I get up early in the morning. I feel terrible. As soon as I can, I'm going to get to the computer, email everyone and say, look, I'm not feeling well. We're not meeting physically in class. I'm going to get you the participation assignment up as quickly as possible, right? So you want to make sure to check email often so that way you don't show up when I cancel class. In addition, should I become ill or have to quarantine for an extended period of time, I will be sending out instructions through email. Our weather policy, I encourage you not to risk your safety traveling to campus if weather conditions are hazardous and prevent safe travel. If you miss a class due to travel conditions and the university is not closed, you're responsible for all material covered in class during your absence. When our classes are canceled, Lander will inform TV and radio stations, and we've also got a recording and it's listed on our website. But do not risk your safety traveling to a campus. If there's a weather issue, I will be happy to work with you. My understanding is students receive lots of Title IX training, so I won't go into all the details here, but the printed syllabus on Blackboard has our policy and who you can talk to if you feel that your rights have been violated. So assignments, as part of your grade, you're required to complete multiple assignments. Failure to submit these assignments by the deadline known in the schedule will result in a 2-point penalty for each day late. Papers submitted in an unreadable format will receive a 2-point penalty and will not be graded until uploaded in the proper format. Doc and DocX examples are readable format. Pages is unreadable, so people will post things in Pages. Late assignments will not be accepted after the Friday before finals week. So just keep that in mind. As for textbooks, students are expected to obtain their own textbooks. I won't be loaning out copies. There are 3 textbooks for this class: The Watchmen, a graphic novel, Volume 1 of the manga Akira, and Volume 1 of the manga Yotsuba. I think an important part of this class, because it is a history class, to actually have some texts to read, right? If we only interact with things electronically, we miss out on something historical about how people interacted with these texts, right? Someone in the 1990s or 80s reading The Watchmen would not have done so on a smartphone because they didn't exist. And it's similar with the great manga Akira, right? They would have read it as paper. And I think it's important to have that experience. If expense is an issue, I would encourage you to work with 1 or 2 other students and each of you buy one of these texts and then trade them around. Blackboard quizzes. There will be multiple quizzes to be taken on Blackboard based on the study guides. These will usually become available Wednesdays and must be completed by 9 a.m. the following Tuesday, unless otherwise noted in the schedule. Usually I don't like to have 2 quizzes open at the same time because students get confused and take the wrong quiz. So that's why I don't like to have more than one open at once. Each quiz will consist of 5 to 10 multiple choice questions. The quiz will be timed with 1 minute being given for each question. So if you have 5 questions, you have 5 minutes. Now, these questions will be given you one at a time, randomly. The quizzes are open note, so I encourage you to have your notes ready, but make sure you still study, right? There's just not enough time to find the answer if you have no idea, right? It's still important to study. However, working with someone else will be considered cheating. Up to 2 makeups will be given for quizzes for such reasons as technology problems or forgetting to take them, right? So do keep that in mind. I must be informed of such problems by end of the day. If you do want to take one of your makeup quizzes, you need to tell me by the end of the day, Friday following the quiz, in order for me to give the makeup. So, for example, if you forgot the quiz is due, Tuesday, you would need to tell me by that following Friday. Otherwise, you can't do the makeup, right? It's important to have a deadline. I can't have someone skip 8 weeks of quizzes and then say, okay, I want to take them all now or something like that. So you've got 2 makeups for forgetting or for tech problems. And then you just need to tell me by the Friday after the quiz was given in order for me to give the makeup. Exams, basically the same rules here apply to exams. So exams will be 50 questions in length, and therefore you're going to have 50 minutes to complete them. One thing I should point out is that in addition to material from the study guides, exams can include questions based on material covered as part of weekly participation. It doesn't matter how you participate, whether you came in person, whether you streamed, or whether you did the participation assignment. It will be the same material. You'll be exposed to the same information, so you'll be fine. A student who without prior excuse does not take an exam at the appointed time will earn an F. Upon the student's request and explanation via email, I may allow you to take a makeup exam with or without penalty, depending on the reason. One thing I want to stress is that working, traveling, unless on official land or business, and other such reasons are not acceptable grounds for retaking an exam or for taking an exam early. One thing I should just point out, in particular, I would highly encourage you not to allow yourself to be scheduled to work on exams or during classes. Once you allow a boss to do that, they will continue doing that, unfortunately. That's been my experience. So you have to really kind of make a judgment call about that. But I do want to point out that is an issue. So your assignments, there's 15 of those response papers. They're each worth 20 points for a total of 300. Quizzes, there are 15 of those, each worth 15 points, so 225 points. There will be 2 opportunities for participation, right? Like it's like a kind of like a midterm grade, right? So there's the first few weeks and there's the last few weeks. Each of those are worth 50 points. Topic sheet for your final paper is 10 points. Midterm is 100 points. Final paper report is 15 points. Rough draft, 50 points. Final draft of your paper, 100 points. Final exam, 100 points. That makes for a total of 1,000 points. And so in this class, I don't grade based on percentages. I grade based on points. So if I were to have a bonus assignment, a point, like 5 points in a bonus assignment is the same as 5 points on the midterm. And 5 points on the midterm is the same as 5 points on the topic sheet. It's the same. And then here's the evaluation, right? If you get 900 points, you get an A. If you get over 800 points, but less than 900, you get a B. More than 700 points, but less than 800, you get a C, and so on and so forth. So not the most exciting thing going over syllabus, but I promise you the rest of the class will be much more interesting.